battle of the sexes. So, men, give us a cheer. Yay! Women, give us a cheer. Yay! Men, roar like a lion. Women roar like a lion. That was 30 years ago. Okay, men, make the sounds you make when you fake an orgasm. The guy who's on the shirt is like a women, make the sound you make when you fake an orgasm.
We don't fake.
You've never faked an orgasm. Never. Well, hang around, baby. I've actually never faked an orgasm before because I was brought up as a Catholic. And, priests used to tell us it was wrong. I'm not a Catholic anymore, I'm an atheist. We got any atheists in? Yay! Atheists, amen! Growing up in my house, Jesus was a big deal, right? For my mum, he was like a god, so I could never I could never tell my mum I'm an atheist. She'd be so disappointed she would die. And then after she died, she'd be disappointed again. Bit of a slow burner. It's a good one. I grew up in Malta, which is a tiny little island just south of Italy. Yeah, woo for Malta. Yeah, I grew up on the beach. That's where these came from. And my dad still lives there. He's a typical Mediterranean man, right? He loves drinking wine or sucking cock. And he can't understand people who don't drink, right? So he called me a couple of weeks ago. He wants to come to London. I live in London. He wants to come to London. He wants to rent a car and drive around. And he told me, he said, "What would be the punishment? What would be the punishment, Steve, if I get caught drink driving?" I said, "Well, I don't know, Dad, because when I drink, I don't drive." There was silence on the phone for about 30 seconds. And he says, "Just because you moved to London, you think you're better than us?" I was like, no, the reason I don't drink and drive is because if you drink and drive, you could die. And he said, "Everybody needs to die, son. That's the reason not to live like a man." And I know where he's coming from, because in Malta, right, drink driving is actually legal. This is true. A few things you should know about Malta. It's sunny, it's friendly, and you can drink and drive. So it's all the things Scotland wishes it could be. And people say, "Wow, drink driving, how does that work?" And the answer is, well, it's drink driving. It works terribly. People get run over all the time. But on the other hand, every petrol station does brew its own beer, so swings and roundabouts. Which is ironic, because that's what most of the cars crash into. Lately, right, the government decided they needed to do something to stop the carnage. And they didn't want to introduce any laws, but instead they came up with an education campaign. And it's the greatest education campaign in history. They came up with this slogan that they used on billboards and newspapers everywhere. It was a simple slogan, it was just this, it was, "If you are going to drink, drive slowly." And that's why I grew up. I had a bit of a weird upbringing, because my dad was in the Air Force, so he moved around a bit. So I was there, I was here for a bit as well. And I went to school here. I recently met a guy who I went to school with here, and his name is John. And I bumped into him recently, just around Christmas. And John's dad was a member of the BNP. And I know Stuart mentioned the BNP just before. He was a member of the BNP. And John's dad came into our school one day and beat up our geography teacher, who was a Muslim. Beat him up. Not only was it the scariest day ever, it was also the last day parents were allowed to come into class to show us what they did for a living. And it was... we didn't have geography for 3 months, right? Our geography teacher was in hospital for 3 months. It was horrible. And like I say, just a few weeks ago, I bumped into John in a pub, and he'd become exactly like his racist dad. First thing he said to me was, "I can't even recognise my own country." I couldn't help but think, well, maybe if you had those 3 months of geography. I'm married. Anyone here in a relationship?
Hey!
Yay! Anyone here married? Woo! Woo! How long have you been married?
17 years.
Wow! You beat me. I've only been married for 8 years. But you'd think after 8 years there wouldn't be secrets between a man and his wife, right? You'd be wrong. I found recently in my wife's underpants drawer, I found an 18-inch vibrator. She said, 18, and that's a crushing thing for a guy to find, right? And so obviously I confronted her about it. It's like, what's this? I thought you were happy with me and my penis. Well, I am. So just sometimes I need something a bit smaller. That's right, gather back, clap for the big penis. But I know I'm lucky. I know I'm very lucky to be in a relationship because a very good friend of mine, he got divorced last year, and he'd been married for ages, he'd been married for about 10 or 11 years. He got divorced, and he became really bitter, right? He turned against women completely. He actually said, I swear to God, he said these words to me, he said, chicks, eh? If they didn't have tits, I'd throw rocks at them. He is in prison now. He got arrested outside Keira Knightley's house. Like I say, I know I'm lucky to be with her. I remember when I was young, I used to go down to Essex to try to pull chicks. Have we got anyone from Essex in? Yay! Chicks like you. Because I thought you guys were easy. And people say, oh, that's not very nice, a bit prejudiced, might be a bit racist, but it's not, because orange isn't correct, right? And I remember going down to Basildon once, and I'll let this. I got my heart broken by a girl from Basildon. And I'll tell you how it happened. I met her, might have been you actually. I met her in this pub, and we were having a couple of drinks, and things were going well, and a couple of hours later, I'm back at her place, and we're getting intimate, and all of a sudden, she starts panting really heavily. Obviously, you're doing something right, yeah? And she goes, actually, I'm having an asthma attack. To which I say, oh my God, should we stop? Should we call an ambulance? What should we do? And she says, there's no need to stop. Just carry on. Once you're done, I'll find my inhaler. I'm like, are you sure? She says, Basildon, I do this all the time. I don't know if anyone here has ever had sex with someone who's having an asthma attack. Not gonna lie, the panting is pretty awesome, but then at one point, her eyes started to roll back. I'm like, oh my God, she's gonna die. I need to end this shit now. I remember at the beginning when I said I've never faked an orgasm before. That's a bit of a lie, because I did. Right? I made the sound, same as Iron Shirt dude. And I rolled out of her. As I rolled out of her, my condom came off. So I really started to freak out. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to realise I'm bone dry, right? She's going to realise I faked it. She's going to freak out. She can't freak out. She's having an asthma attack. What can I do? What would you do? The first thing that came into my head was, well, maybe you have a little wig. On the sheet. Then she'll see a little wet patch. But guys, that's much easier said than done when you've got an erection, isn't what you're having, right? And I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm pushing. And she starts to turn her head towards me slowly. And that's when maybe I pushed a bit too much. Because instead of a wig, so little poo came out. Landed on the bed. Now bear in mind, this woman who's having an asthma attack. She's trying to keep calm. And the guy she's only known for 2 hours has taken a dump on her bed. And this might have been a bit too much for her, because it was at this point that she passed out completely. During which time I called the ambulance, put my clothes back on, and then positioned her body so that her bum was next to me. And ran away! And that's why I ran away. And she never called me again. And next day I asked one of her mates, I said, what happened to Sarah? Why didn't she call me? And she said, well, you need to keep in mind, you are she is actually from Basildon. You may have been way too romantic for her. Right, that's been me, guys.